All right, welcome to Chapter 2, Developing Marketing Strategies and Plans. So, this is one chapter in your textbook that talks about developing marketing strategy and a marketing plan. But you've got to know that this is all of what marketing is planning and strategizing. That's what we do as marketers. So even though Chapter 2 is called Developing Marketing Strategies and Plans, Chapter 3 also has everything to do with how you're going to build a strategy around your organization, around a product, how you're going to plan to bring it to market, how you're going to plan to add value, create value, communicate to your target audience. Everything that we do has to do with developing strategy and making a plan to execute that strategy. So even though this is one chapter in our textbook, this is really just kind of a 30,000 foot view on what goes into building a strategic plan. And then the rest of this textbook really breaks everything down to all of the things that you should be analyzing and considering and making decisions on to create that marketing strategy and plan. So there's sort of two schools of thought here, right? It's a chicken or egg kind of thing in marketing. Which comes first, the product and then the value, or the value and then the product? In other words, do businesses create a product? Okay, I created this thing. It's great. Nobody's ever created this thing before. And then you convince people that you want this thing that I created. You didn't know you wanted it, but now that I've created it, I'm going to tell you and convince you that you do want it and you're going to buy it. Is that how it works? Or do businesses start by choosing the value that they want to deliver, the problem they want to solve for people, and then engineering some sort of product or service to meet that value, to deliver that value? So which is it? There's two schools of thought. There are a couple of people who have strong opinions about that. First, Henry Ford. We all know Henry Ford, brilliant man. If I had asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. This is a great quote from Henry Ford. So back in the early 20th century or late 19th century maybe, when everybody's riding around on horses and carriages and things like that, Henry Ford didn't invent the car. Somebody in Germany did, right? So the Germans invented the car, but Henry Ford made it available to the common person through manufacturing and creating the Model T, and he put cars in everybody's reach, basically. But people didn't know they wanted a car. They didn't think they wanted a car until it was available to them. So Henry Ford developed the product first and convinced people that they needed the value. Steve Jobs. People don't know what they want until you show it to them. You remember when the iPod came out? Nobody knew that we wanted 1,000 songs in our pocket until Steve Jobs told us that we wanted 1,000 songs in our pocket. And it was brilliant. I didn't know that I wanted an iPod before there was an iPod. So there's two people who believe in one version of the chicken and egg answer, and that is create the product and then tell them that they want it, right? Most of us are not Steve Jobs or Henry Ford. So most of us have to go about this in a different way. And we're going to talk about that process in this chapter. All right, so by the way, some of you may have noticed that I've got this microphone in front of me. I tried in Chapter 1, in that lecture, I used the iPhone earbud, and it was fine. I didn't like the sound all that much, and the microphone was scraping against my collar, so I'm trying this now. I know there's a bit of popping and maybe a little bit of cutting out using this microphone. I don't know how to solve that problem, honestly. So if one of you does, great, help me out. but we're going to have to live with this for now. Okay, so from a 30,000 foot view, what do businesses do? This is a description that has 3 steps. Really simple in 3 steps. This is what creating and delivering value, what the book calls the value delivery process is all about. Step 1, choose the value that you want to deliver. So this is the chicken and the egg, but it's not the Steve Jobs or the Henry Ford perspective. This is, let's figure out what problem we're going to solve first. Step 2, solve that problem. Figure out how you're going to solve that problem. And then step 3, tell everybody that you solved the problem. Communicate the value. So relatively simple, right? Choose the value that you want to deliver. Step 1. Step 2 is provide that value. And step 3 is communicate the value. Now, we're going to break down those 3 steps into sort of 5 different processes, get a little more detailed. So 5 core business processes that all businesses have to go through, right? The first process is the market sensing process. All this means is you're noticing things, you're observing, you're seeing problems, that people are complaining about this thing, and you keep hearing people complain about this thing, or you notice something that it bugs you, and it doesn't have to bug you. We could fix this kind of thing. This is the market sensing process. You're figuring out, okay, this thing bugs me. I bet it bugs a lot of other people too. I wonder if I could figure out a way to make that less annoying. Okay, this is the market sensing process. Second process is the new offering realizations process. Researching, developing, designing, launching new offerings. So this is asking people detailed questions about how they do their laundry, and maybe if the soap on your laundry machine that drips down from the counter above it bugs you. There's always this spot of laundry detergent. Maybe that bugs you. Maybe you can figure out how to solve that problem. I don't know. Okay, so this is noticing things, but then going a step further and asking questions and researching how could we solve this problem. Customer acquisition process. So this is where you've solved the problem, you figure out how you're going to add value, and now you've got to go and find customers to pay you money to solve that problem for them. So step 2, the new offering realizations process, researching, developing, and testing. This is where you're in your lab, you're in your workshop, and you're building prototypes, and you're testing these prototypes on your neighbors and your friends and things, and asking them how do they like it, and what do they think about this, or how could we make it better. So that's that second step. The third step is, okay, I've got sort of the final prototype ready. We're going to take this to market, and we're going to find some customers who like this enough to pay me cold hard cash for it. Fourth process is the relationship management process. Once you have customers, your job isn't done. Now you need to keep those customers, build better understanding of those customers and relationships with those customers so they remain loyal to you. Figure out how you can solve more of their problems that are related to the initial problem so you can become an expert in this whole field. This is building relationships. That's the fourth process. And finally, the fifth process is the fulfillment management process. This is when you've got customers, and now you've got lots and lots of customers. Everybody wants the thing that you've built. Now you're taking orders, and you're figuring out how to package and ship things and collect payment, and you've got to figure out how to handle complaints and returns and refund requests and customer service and all that stuff. That's the fifth process. So after you've built the product, you've found customers, you've even sold some, your job is not done. When you look at these 5 core business processes, the question I have The idea is that every business, every even organization goes through some version of these 5 processes. When you look at these 5 processes, question I have is there any part of business that is not marketing? This is all marketing. This is my big, it's kind of my soapbox, but in my opinion, all businesses are marketing businesses. Whether you sell shoes or whether you declaw cats, you're a marketing business. You're in the marketing business because your job is to find customers and keep customers, to create and deliver value, and then tell a compelling story about that value. Is there any part of business that is not marketing? So this is my opinion. Everybody is a marketer. Everybody. The engineer in the company, the customer service representative, the packaging guy in the warehouse, because if that packaging guy does a shoddy job at packaging, people get their packages and the things inside are broken because they weren't protected very well. That reflects on the company, and then that customer says, well, I'm not buying that thing again. That packaging guy is important at keeping a customer. That packaging guy is a marketer. The salesperson is in marketing. The accountant is in marketing. Everyone. When I worked for pharmacy as the marketing manager, I went through. We had about 40 or 50 employees, and I deputized all of them in a big company meeting. I gave kind of a speech on this where I said, everything has to do with the customer, whether you're a pharmacist in the back or a customer service representative in the front or the salesperson, everything has to do with serving that customer. So you are all marketers. I deputize you all as marketers. It was kind of fun. So when I look at a business, I look at every business as a marketing business and everyone in that business as the marketing department. There's no desk or set of offices where that's where the marketing department lives and the rest of the company does something else. No, we're all marketers. We are all marketing the company. So core competency, what you are or strive to be better at than anyone else. This is all about differentiation. There are 3 characteristics to core competency. Source of competitive advantage, applications in a wide variety of markets, and it's difficult for competitors to imitate. So when you think of your core competency, this is your superpower. If you're a superhero from Marvel or from the other one, what's Batman? Darn it. What is your superpower? Batman says his superpower is that he's rich. That's great. So what is it that gives you a competitive advantage, sort of an unfair advantage over other people? And how can you use that superpower in a wide variety of markets, in lots of different places, in lots of different ways to help lots of different people? And then the third characteristic, obviously, is you can't have a superpower that everybody has or that everybody can imitate. If everybody could be rich, then everybody could be Batman. That's not a core competency anymore. So you have a literacy assignment. What is the difference between strategy and tactics? And there's a little bit in the textbook on this, but not much. I think you should go and do a little bit of searching on the interwebs and find some people who have strong opinions about this. But write your answer and be prepared to share your answer in class. The difference between strategy and tactics, it is a gray line. It is not a hard and fast rule. You will have arguments with people when you start saying, no, it's not really a strategy. It's more like a tactic. Fine, whatever. Okay, so, but I want you to be able to think about strategy versus tactics so that you can have that argument. Corporate mission statements. Okay, so the book talks a lot about corporate mission statements, and this is important because every organization should know, whether you're a for-profit company or a nonprofit, you should know what your mission is. Why do you exist? What is your purpose? Some organizations call this a purpose statement, but why do you exist in the world? What are you trying to do? That is your mission. It's your mission statement. Now, for-profit companies, a lot of times their mission statement is they want to serve their stakeholders. If they're a publicly traded company, their stakeholders are shareholders. It's the owners of the company, the people who have put money in so that they can get a return on investment. They literally own the company because they've purchased shares of the company. So a lot of corporate mission statements in for-profit publicly traded companies are, our mission is to increase the return on investment for our shareholders. And that's why they exist, to make money. Now, in the nonprofit world, mission statements tend to be a little different, right? It's far more field oriented, or we exist to help these people. We exist to accomplish this goal. In the nonprofit world, it's very different. There are no stakeholders that they're trying to make money for. But let's talk a little bit about mission statements. So if you get this wrong, you will go the way of the typewriter. So what I mean by this is, if you don't have the right mission statement, you could easily find yourself irrelevant, because as time goes on and technology changes, if your mission statement is, our mission as a company is to make the best darn typewriter in the world. Well, that's great if you're living in 1955. But if that is your mission statement, that is supposed to endure kind of forever, it's supposed to endure the test of time. If your mission statement is, we're going to make the best darn typewriter in the world, then come around 1995, 2000, nobody's buying typewriters anymore. And your company with that mission statement is obsolete. So your mission statement should somehow encompass more about what value you're trying to create. What does a typewriter do? Well, it helps people communicate. So if the greatest typewriter company in the world had a mission statement of, our mission is to more effectively help people communicate with loved ones around the world, or more effectively, I don't know, communicate in a corporate world. I don't know what it would be. But if their mission statement was simply, we help people communicate, then they could have transitioned from making typewriters to making computers, or making cell phones even. Think about Apple. If their mission statement had been, our mission is to make computers, then they would never have made an iPod or an iPhone. They would never have made iTunes. That's not a computer. That's a music service. That's a database, right? So Apple got it right in that their mission statement was simply to connect the world in some ways. And the devices, as technology changed, they just changed devices. But their mission statement, their mission was always the same, and they could ride through that. So that's what I mean when I say, if you get your mission wrong, then you could go the way of the typewriter. You will soon become obsolete as time goes on. So your mission should be a statement that would last forever. Okay? Your mission should be as good as it is now as it would be in 100 years from now. It should be timeless. Okay? It's different. A vision statement is different. A vision statement, to me, now this is my opinion, should have sort of a timeline to it. It should be like, in the next 10 years, our vision is to feed every orphan on earth. That's a vision. Our vision is in 10 years to provide a bed for every orphan in the world, or in Africa, or in Liberia, or wherever it is. But a vision has a timetable to it. It doesn't last forever. You would, after 10 years, you would recast your vision. Okay, I'm talking too much. What is Coca-Cola's mission statement? We're going to get to that. But look it up. They have a very interesting mission statement. What is Coca-Cola's mission statement? Is it to make soda? Is it to make drinks? I don't know. So, mission statement. According to Peter Drucker, this famous guy, Peter Drucker, your mission statement should answer these 5 very important questions. What is our business? Who is the customer? What value are we delivering? What will our business be? And what should our business be? So according to Peter Drucker, your mission statement in 2 or 3 sentences should answer all 5 of these questions. Okay, and your textbook talks a little bit more about that. Our textbook, according to Kotler and Keller, says that a mission statement should have 5 characteristics. It should focus on a limited number of goals. It shouldn't be, our mission is to do everything for everyone. No, you can't have a mission that tries to please everyone. Number 2, it should stress the company's major policies and values. So some sort of value statement should be in your mission. Define the major competitive arena in which to compete. Are you competing in the entertainment arena? Are you competing in the pro sports arena? Where are you competing? Number 4, take a long-term approach. That's where I say a mission statement should be timeless. It should last almost forever. If you're writing a mission statement every 4 years or 5 years, you're doing something wrong. Number 5, mission statements are as short, memorable, and meaningful as possible. The idea with a mission statement is everybody at the company or the organization should be able to memorize the mission statement. So when people walk around and they ask you, what is our mission statement? Everybody working at that company should know what the mission statement of the company is. Why are they there? Why do they exist? What are they working towards? And it should be a joint effort. So great companies do this well. They figure out ways to make sure that the mission statement of the corporation, of the company, of the organization is embedded in the minds and in the hearts of their employees. Because it's only then that they can really live out that mission. If you're working at a church or an organization and you don't know what your mission is, then that's a problem. That's a leadership problem too. The leaders of that organization, of that church, they have a problem if their employees don't know what the mission of their church is. So, Coca-Cola's mission statement. It has nothing to do with making soda. It is, according to right on their website, to refresh the world, to inspire moments of optimism and happiness, to create value and make a difference. They don't even mention drinks in their mission statement. So I'm not saying that this is the perfect mission statement by any means, because if you look back at these characteristics that you're supposed to have, does it answer these 5 questions from Peter Drucker? Does it have these 5 characteristics? I'm not sure that this mission statement does, but we know that Coca-Cola is one of the most successful companies in the world. It's one of the most recognized brands in the entire world. And we probably know that this is an easy mission statement to memorize. Everybody working at Coke can know that their mission is to refresh the world, to inspire moments of optimism and happiness. That explains their TV commercials, right? Or their ads that you see. It's all about happiness. To create value and make a difference. So that last part, to make a difference, that really speaks to the company's values, right? That's a values statement. They want to make a difference. They don't just want to make a buck, they want to make a difference. So I just find this to be an interesting mission statement. And it's timeless. When will this ever go out of style? When will this ever become obsolete? That's one major benefit or strength of Coca-Cola's mission statement. It is timeless. Okay, strategic business units. So if you're not familiar, if you're with sort of the corporate world, the big business world, this you may never thought of business this way, but businesses, companies, large corporations could have several businesses within their one corporation. And we're going to talk about some examples, and you'll get it in a second. But a strategic business unit is a collection of related businesses that can be planned separately from the rest of the company. It's has its own set of competitors, has a manager responsible for strategic planning and profit performance. You're going to get this as soon as I show you the next couple of examples. So here's the first one. For example, General Electric. General Electric is an enormous company, and they have many strategic business units that have their own financial statements, their own profit and loss, their own managers and set of leadership within the company. And so, for example, GE has GE Oil and Gas, their energy strategic business unit, their energy business unit. They have GE Capital, sort of their banking and their financing. GE Healthcare, where they're working with hospitals and in the healthcare industry, maybe to make devices, maybe to make software. I don't know. GE Transportation, where they're making bullet trains and things like that. And all of these business units are distinct and separate on their own. They could live as a business on their own. It's like they could spin off and be their own business, but they're under the umbrella of the GE brand. And a long time ago, there was, well, it was in the 80s and 90s, I suppose, the president or CEO of GE. He was really well known, so well known that I've forgotten his name. But he demanded that all of his business units, all of GE's strategic business units, either had to be number one or number two in their market, or they shut them down. So GE Healthcare, if you weren't number one or number two in the industry, if you were somehow number three in market share or whatever, we're shutting you down. Everybody in that business unit is fired. The manager is fired. You're gone. And we're going to make room for the next strategic business unit in GE's lineup that can be number one or number two, and we're going to put all our resources into them. That was kind of their way. So people worked really hard to be number one or number two in their market. They were really competitive, and it worked. That's what motivated people. Disney. You think of Disney, this is another giant corporation that has lots and lots of different strategic business units. They have the theme parks in the upper left. They've got Disney World and Disneyland and Disney Cruises and Disney Europe. And I don't know where else their theme parks are. But then you've got Disney's movie making business unit, where they now own Star Wars, and they make Pixar movies or distribute Pixar movies. They make their own movies. I've seen them all because I have 3 kids. So Disney's into movie making and entertainment. And then they own ESPN. So they're in sort of the sports broadcasting world. And they own the Angels. They own the Anaheim Angels of Los Angeles Angels of Anaheim, whatever they are. but they're in the sports industry, and that's a completely separate business unit. And then they make toys, lower right. So they make all this merchandise and these toys, and they sell them everywhere. They have Disney stores in malls, and that's its own strategic business unit. So under the umbrella of the Disney brand, there are lots of different strategic business units within that brand. That's what a strategic business unit is. It's somewhat important for you to know. You may or may not work for a corporation that is divided up like that. I don't know. But you should know what strategic business units are and kind of how they operate. Because even in small business, you could think of your business in that way. You could, even if your business is small, you could think of the different ways that you're trying to compete and in the different arenas that you're trying to compete. And you could say, okay, we're really winning in this area, in these business units with this competition, and we're really losing in this area. So maybe we want to cut the losers and focus on the winners. That would be a strategy of yours if you wanted to do that. And you can do that in small business as well as big business. So, good segue, a strategic business. Companies should constantly prune their strategic business units, as in get rid of the turkeys. I made this up myself, by the way. Get rid of the turkeys, keep the eagles, and make room for the next egg, which is exactly what I just said a moment ago. Get rid of the losers, focus on the winners, and start developing what could be your next winner. Corporate culture. Why is corporate culture part of a marketing textbook? This is a great question, and my answer is the thing that I've said over and over again. Marketing has everything to do with everything, including corporate culture. And corporate culture is how people feel about their jobs, what is sort of the shared values of the company? How do we act and how do we communicate those values? How do we live out those values in the way we do our work? All of that is marketing, because when you think about, there's lots of reasons. Think about an innovation company, a company like 3M out of Minneapolis. You probably never thought about 3M, but they're huge. They make Scotch tape. They invented Post-it notes. They are an enormous company, and they're built on innovation. So they've built into their corporate culture a culture of innovation. They encourage people to try experiments, to work with materials in new and different ways. They reward people by recognizing innovativeness. And I don't know this, but maybe they have a prize for the biggest failure of the month because somebody tried something and it failed. If they celebrate those kinds of failures, you get more and more people who are trying new things and failing a lot of the times. But every once in a while they hit on a winner, like Post-it notes. If you bake that into your culture, all of a sudden that becomes part of your product. It becomes how you build things. I was just thinking of an example. We talked about GE. Part of their corporate culture was competitiveness. They were going to be number one or number two in every market, or they're gone. So their corporate culture was fiercely competitive. Google has another, they built into their corporate culture these flexible days where they called it 20% time or something like that, where 20% of their working time was designed to, they encouraged their employees to work on any project they wanted. It was like an understanding assignment. Go work on something that you're interested in, that you want to explore. 20% of your time we want you to devote to that because you just might step into something that's fantastic. I think, if I'm remembering correctly, Gmail was born out of that 20% time. Somebody came up with Gmail by just pursuing, what if Google had its own mail system to compete with Yahoo? or MSN or whatever the competitors were at that time. That came out of a culture of innovativeness. And that has everything to do with marketing. SWOT analysis. Okay, SWOT analysis. SWOT stands for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And you're going to be doing a SWOT analysis at the end of, well, as part of the assignment for this chapter, because you need to understand what this is and how to do it and how to think about it. So SWOT analysis, again, calls for strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. The strengths and weaknesses, you should think about these as internal. You know, you have this assignment to write your course plan, your strategic plan for the course, and you have a section that's called internal analysis, where you talk about things like, I'm not good at studying after 9 o'clock. That might be a weakness that you would consider. That's an internal thing. You know that about yourself. A strength might be, I'm really good at presentations and talking in front of people. That's a strength. So you know that about yourself, and you want to use that in your strategy. So play to your strengths and minimize your weaknesses. But strengths and weaknesses are internal things. They're within the company. If you have employees, maybe you've got a fantastic designer, graphic designer. So that's a strength, because internally, inside the company, we have fantastic design. A weakness could be we're weak on product innovation. We haven't come up with a new product in a dozen years. So developing new products is a weakness of ours. And you know that about you. It's internal. Opportunities and threats are external. So opportunities might be things like, there's what would be a good opportunity? The textbook, do I have a slide in here? Oh, I do. I should use my slides. Okay, I'm going to use my slides. Threats. So a challenge from the outside of the company environment that may lead to lower sales or profit. A competitor launching a new product that's outside your company. Kim Jong-il launching a nuclear missile on us, that's outside of our company. That would be a threat, right? Kim Jong-un. Kim Jong-il was his dad, right? New government regulations, that's outside your company. That could be a threat. If they say, if you're an oil and gas company and they're going to restrict the amount of oil and gas that you can export around the world, that could cut into your profits. So that's a threat. Suppliers raising their prices. If you make widgets and you buy steel from the steel company to make your widgets, and then that steel company, your supplier of steel, raises their prices, well, that's a threat. A weak economy could be a threat. You know, people don't have as much money to spend on your fun widget. So that weak economy could be a threat to you. Opportunities. So the book talks about 3 sources of opportunities. You could offer something that is in short supply, as in, what if shoelaces are in short supply? Nobody has any shoelaces anymore. It's really hard to find shoelaces. So your company sits around the strategic table and says, hey guys, everybody's looking for shoelaces. Nobody can find them. There's a short supply of shoelaces. Let's make shoelaces. That's a great opportunity for our company. So that's what that number 1 means. Number 2, innovate existing product to offer superior benefits. So maybe you're going to create self-tying shoelaces. Shoelaces have been around forever. They're an existing product, but you are going to make them superior to every other shoelace that exists. So you innovate and you make them better than anybody else's. That's the old saying, making a better mousetrap. Offer a completely new product or service, something no one has ever seen before, like an iPod. When iPods came out, nobody thought of iPods. When the Model T came out, nobody thought they could afford a car. Everybody thought they needed a faster horse. We talked about that in chapter 1. So offer something brand new. That's an opportunity. Okay. Weaknesses and strengths. We talked about this already. What are we great at? What are we terrible at? Page 51. Page 51, the marketing memo has a great sort of table for you to sort of map out what your strengths and weaknesses could be. It's got a great list: company reputation, market share, customer satisfaction. Is that a major strength, a weakness? Where is that? So take a look at marketing memo on page 51, and you could, any organization or company that you're working for, you could use a lot of these and just graph out, okay, here's what we're strong at, here's what we're terrible at. And that could be part of your strategic analysis. I had a professor who, instead of SWOT, he would always say TOES. What is your TOES analysis? So TOES would be threats, opportunities, weaknesses, and strengths. Sorry about my phone. The reason he would do that is simply because there's a sort of a fundamental viewpoint of marketing that marketing should be an outside-in process. As in, for example, you should be thinking about what's happening out there first rather than what's happening inside your company. I don't know if that makes any sense at all, but it's like a customer first. The customers are first, so we need to think about what are the opportunities that we have with our customers. Our customers are looking for shoelaces. So we want to use that as an opportunity. So you start from the outside, threats and opportunities, and you work your way in, weaknesses and strengths, to see how your strengths and your weaknesses can apply to those opportunities and threats. It's just a way of thinking. 3 of you are going to understand what I'm saying. That's fine. SWOT or TOES, the difference is simply the way you think about marketing. Strategic planning. Really important. That is what I do in my job every day, all day long, is planning, and then trying to execute those plans. So strategic planning, we're going to start with a discussion on goals. If the ladder is not leaning against the right wall, every step we take just gets us to the wrong place faster. It's a great quote from Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey wrote a lot of several really popular business management kind of self-helpy books that are pretty useful. I use a lot of his ideas actually daily, because his idea on how to calendar my time and manage my time with my list every week that I write down, that comes from Stephen Covey. So you want to you want to know what your goals are. You want to know what you're doing. And there's sort of a way to think about goals. SMART goals. Your goals should all be SMART, meaning they should be specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-bound. So specific, they should be really specific goals. They shouldn't be really broad in scope kind of goals. They should be very specific about what you're trying to accomplish. Specific would be, my goal is to lose 10 pounds. That's a specific goal. Okay. Specific having to do with weight. It's not, my goal is to be healthier. That's a pretty, you could define healthier in lots of different ways. Is that mental health, emotional health, physical health? I don't know. If my goal is to be healthier, what does that mean? It's not specific enough. My goal is to lose 10 pounds. That's really specific. Okay, so that's specific. Measurable. My goal is to lose weight. Okay, well, if I lose 3 ounces of weight, does that mean I achieved my goal? You need to write a goal that is measurable, that has a number to it, so it's quantifiable. My goal is to lose 10 pounds. That's really measurable. I know that if I've lost 9 pounds, I've failed at my goal. I need to lose 10 pounds. If I lose 11 pounds, I've achieved my goal. It's measurable. Attainable. My goal is to set the world record in high jumping. Well, I am never going to set any record in high jumping or any kind of jumping or running or anything because I am not Greg Simmons. Your goals should be attainable. Okay, they shouldn't be easy, but they should be attainable. Don't write goals that you cannot achieve. It doesn't do you any good. Relevant simply means if I'm trying to lose weight, I shouldn't write a goal in the strategic plan to lose weight to say my goal is to buy a red car. That's not relevant to what I'm trying to do. It's not relevant to losing weight, being healthier, anything. Okay, my goal is not to rebuild a Harley Davidson motorcycle. That's not relevant to losing weight if that's what I'm trying to do. So make your goals relevant to your company, to your mission, to whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Make them relevant. Time bound, you should put a time limit on your goals. Every goal should have a time. My goal is to lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks, in 2 months, whatever it is. It should be time bound, a beginning and an end. Okay, so that's SMART goals. And I want you to remember that because it makes it really easy to evaluate whether you are writing effective goals or not. Okay. Michael Porter. Michael Porter is this management and marketing guy who's famous for a couple of theories. He's famous, number one, for the 5 forces model, which we're going to talk about in a little bit here briefly, but it also comes up in another chapter down the road. And then he's also famous for his theory on 3 generic strategies. So this is academic stuff. This is what college professors write about. They think up these things and they think about business and try to organize them into 3 generic strategies. That's what he's done. Let's see here. So just briefly, Porter's 5 forces. This is an idea of how do we evaluate. Okay, so here's an experiment. I've got this video to show you that explains Porter's generic strategies, these 3 generic strategies, probably better than I will. So we're going to try it. Here we go. Good luck. Okay, there. Patience, patience, patience. Play.
In order to be successful and make a profit in a competitive market, every organization needs a clear strategy. But how do you decide on the best strategy for your business? Should you offer a unique product or service or the cheapest price? Should you focus on a niche market instead of a broad one? The decision you make will impact every aspect of your organization, so it's important to get it right. Porter's generic strategies can help you to make the best choice for your organization. Michael Porter identifies 3 strategies for achieving competitive edge in his book, Competitive Advantage: Creating and Sustaining Superior Performance. These are cost leadership strategy, differentiation strategy, and focus strategy. Cost leadership strategy focuses on increasing profits by reducing operating costs and charging lower prices. To implement this strategy successfully, you will need to be able to invest in new technology and have efficient logistics. You must also make sure that your spending on items such as labor, materials, and facilities is kept low. It's essential that you beat your competitors on cost, so you'll need to continually monitor and reduce your costs. The differentiation strategy focuses on making your product or service attractive and unique in comparison to those of your competitors. For example, you might specialize in a particular feature or unique service, be renowned for your excellent customer service, or have a highly valued brand image. You will need to be creative and innovative and be able to provide high-quality products or services for this strategy to work. Sales and marketing also play a vital role in this strategy's success, and you'll need to make sure that you stay ahead of new trends in your industry. The focus strategy concentrates on developing products or services for a niche market. Using this strategy requires a deep understanding of your customers' needs. Your aim will be to meet these needs by providing that special something extra that customers can't get anywhere else. You'll also need to decide whether to adopt cost leadership or differentiation. This is because the focus strategy is not normally enough to win substantial market share on its own. Choosing the right strategy for your organization is crucial to gaining a competitive edge over your rivals. By using Porter's generic strategies model, you'll be able to identify the strategy that you need to lead your organization to success. You can find out more about Porter's generic strategies, including a step-by-step guide to using them, in the article that accompanies this video.
Okay, sorry that video never got better. Sorry. But if you just closed your eyes and listened to what she was saying, you get the 3 generic strategies from Michael Porter. Okay, moving on. Remember, we are thinking strategically, learning how to think strategically. One option is to look for strategic alliances. This would be, ways that you could team up with people that you aren't normally associated with, or that you wouldn't normally think of associating with, so that you focus on sort of what do we have in common, what are we both interested in, how can we serve each other in this mutual way, strategic alliance, right? So there are 4 sort of marketing alliances. There's product service alliance. Think of Uber. So Uber partnered up with Spotify to make sure that all their cars had Spotify services in them, or something like that. So that would be that's a great product and service alliance. Spotify has the product, even though it's a digital product, it's still a product. And Uber is a service. So you take a product, you match it with a service, and bam, you've got an alliance. Number 2, promotional alliance. Okay, so people make the Batman movie. They want to promote the Batman movie. And so they team up with Legos to help promote Batman. DC's brilliant, and Lego is brilliant at finding this way to team up. Now, Lego is making Batman Lego movies, and everybody loves Batman more because it's for everybody. And also, look down in the left corner, you see the Happy Meal. McDonald's is part of that promotional alliance, where McDonald's is promoting Lego Batman movie and Batman. That's probably the stronger alliance in this example, is McDonald's and the movie studio for Lego Batman. So promotional alliance. 3, logistics alliance. In this example, Warner Music Group and Sub Pop. Warner Music Group is a label, right? So they're producing albums from artists. They're producing music from artists. Sub Pop is sort of this brick and mortar store that focuses on independent music, indie music. And so they team up and they create this new label called ADA, or Alternative Distribution Alliance, to promote indie music. So there's a logistics alliance in there. And number 4 is pricing collaboration, where a hotel and rental car service might team up to put a package together, a pricing package where you can get your hotel room and your rental car all in one package that costs you less than if you were to get those two things separately. That would be pricing collaboration. So those are the 4 sort of basic marketing alliances that you could be looking for when you're trying to create a strategy. Again, we're just trying to help you think strategically, how to think like a marketer, how to think like a strategist. Marketing plans. Marketing plans are really, really important. You've already written a marketing plan, even though you didn't know it. Your course plan is the start of a marketing plan. It has some analysis in it. It has a recommendation or a proposal in it, and how you're going to measure it. I made that assignment so that you could start thinking about the elements that go into a marketing plan. Now, according to Kotler and Keller, our textbook authors, there are some characteristics of a marketing plan. Marketing plans should be simple and succinct. They should be complete. There shouldn't be anything missing from them. They should be specific, and they should be realistic. Sounds a lot like writing goals, right? But this is obviously broader. So what to include? These are the elements in a marketing plan. I want you guys to be experts at writing these plans, because when I took my first marketing job, one of the first things my boss told me to do was, okay, great, glad you're here. Could you write an annual marketing plan for our organization and have it on my desk in 2 weeks? And I got this marketing job because he knew me, not because I was qualified to be a marketer. I had no idea what I was doing. I had no idea what went into a marketing plan. I was just coming off of being a band and choir director. I was a teacher. So I was scrambling all over the internet looking for examples of marketing plans. What should go into a marketing plan? I had no idea. That will not be you. You are going to know what to put in a marketing plan, or at least you'll have a starting point of how you want to make your marketing plans, because it will change over time. You'll walk away from this course with some ideas, and you'll practice those ideas, and over time you might discover that some of those ideas you don't really use all that often, so you don't use them, and your style of writing marketing plans might change. That's okay. But here's your starting point. What to include: an executive summary and table of contents. Remember, the executive summary it summarizes the entire plan. If you think of that busy executive, that busy CEO or president that says, just give me the 2-minute version of your marketing plan. That's all I have time for. I don't want the entire 14 pages of marketing plan. Just give me 3 paragraphs of what this plan includes so that I can kind of know what's going on. That's the executive summary. And then also include a table of contents so that person or whomever you're presenting your plan to can read over what's in the plan. A situation analysis. External analysis, that's threats and opportunities. That's customer analysis. It's competitor analysis. All of those things should be included in here. Internal analysis, that's like strengths and weaknesses. What are you great at? What do you stink at? What do you own? Like, do you own a giant list of customers? That would be probably a strength, but that would be something that would go into internal analysis. Strategic issues. This is something that I find really useful. So useful, it looks like I listed it twice. That's a mistake. So strategic issues are questions, usually in the form of a question. Like, how do we find our target customer? That's a strategic issue. How do we define our target customer? Who is our target customer? Those are strategic issues. How do we measure success? That's a strategic issue. Okay, so you see all these questions. Your plan should answer these questions. Well, how do we measure success? How do we know if we're successful? Down here, when you look at our the performance metrics that we're going to use, that answers that question. So your strategic issues are questions that your proposal or your recommendation should answer. Okay, so that's all part of the situation analysis. Alternatives. I like to include alternatives because it helps me exercise my brain. It helps me think creatively and sort of push my creative boundaries a little bit. So I don't want to just write a plan that has one recommendation. I want to talk about 3 different alternatives. We could go this way, we could go this way, or we could go this way. Here are the pros and cons of each of those 3 alternatives. And then in the end, I recommend alternative 2. So I like to include alternatives to show that I have thought through what could be. I've thought through some different ways that we could do this. So I like to include different alternatives in a strategic plan, and then I give a proposal or a recommendation. That's the next thing. So your recommendation should be, here's the way I think we should go. And that should include financial projections. If we go this way, by my estimations, we will earn this much money in this much time. We'll have this much cost. It will cost us this much. So here's our budget. So use some numbers. Get the pencil sharpened out in that recommendation, and pay attention to your economics and accounting classes because they are useful. Okay, so do well in those classes. If you're a marketer who's good with budgets and running numbers, you will be better than 85% of the marketers out there, guaranteed. So those financial classes and those accounting classes, economics classes, do well in those. Work hard in those. Implementation. After you give your recommendation, then outline how you're going to execute that plan. How are you going to implement it? What's the timeline? What are the tasks that go into it? Who's going to be responsible for accomplishing those tasks? That's all part of implementation. And my professor used to say that plans fail for 2 reasons: either bad strategy or bad implementation. So if you want your plan to succeed, you've got to be good at both. You've got to have a good strategy and a good implementation of that strategy. You have to execute. Okay? But include that in your plan. Make a list of tasks, make a list of due dates to each of those tasks, and include who is going to be responsible for getting those things done. That's implementation. Include a timeline. Performance metrics. That is how do you know if you're winning? How are you measuring success? How are you measuring your performance? It could be revenue. We're going to measure our performance by the amount of revenue we gain month to month. It could be the number of customers. We're measuring our performance by the number of new customers we get each month for the next 12 months. If we get more customers over 12 months, we're winning. That's a performance metric. It could be transactions, not just how much money you're making, but how many transactions are you getting? Maybe it's repeat customers. How many new repeat customers are we getting? Not just new customers, but how many of them are coming back? Those are all performance metrics that you could include in your marketing plan, but know how you're going to measure your performance. Okay, wax on, wax off. So all of this entire chapter, when we were talking about SWOT analysis and we're talking about strategic alliances and how to write goals, all of these are the elements of writing a strategic marketing plan. These are the elements of thinking like a marketer. How many of you have you guys seen Karate Kid? Where, in Karate Kid, the first movie, Mr. Miyagi makes Daniel, he makes him wax these cars, and he says, wax off, wax on, wax off. And eventually Daniel gets sick of doing all these chores like painting fences, and he says, when am I going to learn karate? And then Mr. Miyagi says, show me wax on, wax off. And Daniel starts doing it in the air, and Mr. Miyagi punches him. But Daniel blocks it because he's learned to wax on and wax off. He had no idea that he was learning karate the whole time that he was waxing cars and painting fences. And so that's kind of what we're doing here. Even though some of this stuff is, you have no idea how you're going to use it, this is all part of thinking like a marketer. It's all part of being able to be a marketer in a company or an organization and do the job that a marketer does. Okay, so the last thing to end this chapter is this quote by Dwight Eisenhower. It's a fantastic quote. Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. You've got to know that your plans will change. Once you get it on paper and you start executing and living inside that plan, your plan is going to change. It will become useless. But planning, taking the time to think through how you're going to do things, planning, that process is indispensable. And I believe that wholeheartedly. So I love this quote. Plans are useless, but planning is indispensable. Okay, finally, for your evidence of understanding, binder, compare and contrast 3 perspectives on the question, what makes a good mission and vision statement? Conduct a SWOT analysis of 2 different organizations and find 4 examples of real or sample marketing plans. Highlight the elements that align with our textbook, Kotler and Keller, with what they believe should be in a marketing plan. Because you will find lots of different types of marketing plans out there. And I want you to know that the elements that we talk about in this course and the elements that are included in our textbook, it's not the only way to write a marketing plan. There are other ways to write marketing plans too, but I just want you to be aware of what's out there. Okay, that's chapter 2.